No matter the card game, it's pretty well accepted among most communities that pre-order prices are not often going to be a good barometer on what a card's actual value will be. Now, there are some rare exceptions where cards start out very low and end up spiking, or the other way around, but typically it's best to wait until actual release if you want to get cards for the best value. That being said, taking value out of it, I thought it'd be interesting to look at the best-selling cards for Outlaws at Thunder Junction before the set's official release this week, and seeing what players are going after and sort of what type of impact those cards may have. So without further ado, let's jump into the video and look at the best-selling cards from Outlaws at Thunder Junction so far. Alright everybody, thank you so much for being here, really do appreciate it as always. Please go ahead and like that video and click the subscribe button if you want to be notified. You can click the bell icon as well whenever new videos are posted. Just a quick note, I want to give a shout out to everybody that took the time to watch the horror stores video I posted at the end of last week. That was really fun to make, and honestly, I was blown away by the support. I did not expect as many people to watch and interact with it, so I am happy to report there will be another one coming up pretty soon, but I have to do some editing and kind of find a few more stories. But it was really fun to branch out and do something just a little different, and the community receiving it as well as they did made me extremely happy. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the best-selling cards on TCG Player up to this point before release for Outlaws at Thunder Junction. I didn't really include basic lands in this because that's kind of not really going to give us any kind of indication, but sort of looking at the cards that have been selling the most and seeing where we think, some of them might end up, because as I said in the intro, pre-orders typically end up being a lot more money than the actual cards themselves, but again, there are times where that does change. We'll have to see what it looks like when the set actually comes out. First up though, Honest Ruthstein is of course a really powerful card. It's an uncommon that's also available in a promo pack if your locals is a WPN store and they have the promo packs. You can get this in that cool etched foiling, but it is one black-green legendary human warlock. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and creature spells you cast cost one less. So generically speaking, it's really good. I've seen a lot of comparisons made to Goblin Archaeomancer, which can reduce the cost of certain colored spells. Obviously, if your deck has access to black and green, this is a pretty good inclusion. Not to mention it does get cards back, so reducing the cost and also allowing you to recoup stuff from the grave for whatever reason, if it was milled or otherwise, just makes this overall a really strong uncommon. It's only pre-selling at about 25 cents right now for the regular one and closer to $1 for the foil, so I don't expect it's going to be kind of crazy expensive, and there should be a mass influx of these on the market considering the fact that there's going to be so much of the set ripped open. But down the line, I mean, it could easily be an uncommon that ends up going more. I definitely see why people are kind of looking at this though, because it's going to be a really powerful card and it's going to have application in multiple formats. Even Interrupter is one white creature bird rogue with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted, which of course means its owner may cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. So we do have a few other cards like this that do similar things, exiling a spell, having flash, but a few things about this that kind of make it really interesting is A, it only costs 3 mana, so it's not bad. It does have, the flash being able to respond, but plotting, is a really cool mechanic in the sense that it does allow you to play things on a later turn for free. Of note, you could use this technically speaking to plot one of your own cards if you wanted to leave it there, and I think even the way this card actually works, you could respond to an opponent negating one of your cards and then put it out, plot it, and play it on another turn. But of course, negating your opponent's stuff temporarily, and then they have to pay more to cast it. Certainly a really solid combination. I just think this card's benefit is its flexibility, and the fact that you can do a lot with it. It's currently pre-selling around $5, give or take, for the regular rare, and pretty much the same for the foil. So a very hotly demanded card. I can certainly see where in standard it may be threatening, but I think it's going to have some eyes across multiple formats for sure. But it's definitely selling like crazy right now. Now this one's another uncommon, but it's really strong. It's called Forsaken Miner. It is a 1 black creature skeleton rogue that cannot block. Whenever you commit a crime, you may play 1 black mana. If you do, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. Targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyards is considered a crime. Now there are other skeletons that do this, of course, like Reassembling Skeleton, but he costs more and comes in tapped. This is the first one to my knowledge that can bring itself back, that can just come out untapped, which is kind of cool. However, you can't block with it, so there is that sort of bit of a downside. It's not like bringing it out tapped unless you have a way to give things haste is going to give you some kind of crazy advantage. Of course, obviously, if you do this during your opponent's turn, you can make use of it on your turn to attack. But I think one of the strongest things this card's going to have going for it, of course, is going to actually be its ability to go infinite with cards like Phyrexian Altar and Blood Artist, which is just straight up going to be a keep pinging and bringing it back to deal damage. And that's just one of many different outlets you're going to have with this. But the fact that it's a strong combo piece like it is and can basically be part of a 3-card win condition is going to draw a lot of attention. It is about 35 cents right now, and then the foil version's going for around the same. But again, just keep in mind the fact that sometimes these uncommons do take off, and a lot of times if you do see cards start to rise in price early on, it'll either be something that has an impact in a tournament or an event shortly after it comes out, or maybe an uncommon that people didn't realize was good, and now people start to scoop up copies. So Forsaken Miner is going to be really strong for the combo potential that it has, of course, but in general, you know, Skeleton is a popular mechanic. We've got Tiny Bones in the set. I think we're getting closer to Skeleton Tribal maybe someday being an actual viable commander deck as well. Lava Spur Boots, another uncommon. There's a bit of a theme here, and I mean, this card is really strong. It's a 1-drop artifact equipment. Equip creature gets +1/+0 on its haste and ward 1. And then it has Equip 1. So, another boots option like Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves that gives your creature haste. This gives it ward 1, so it's not like Shroud or Hexproof where you have to, you know, and this is ward 1's not the hardest thing to play around, but still, it's a budget version of Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves, and in a lot of cases, having access to another copy of a card like that can help you to protect your commander or give you access to haste faster is never going to be a bad thing, and the fact that it's only a 1-drop, you know, in and of itself is pretty good too. This is pre-selling for about $1 for the regular and about $1.50 for the foil, but I think this card's going to be one to keep an eye on because it's just a really solid piece of equipment that, while outclassed, is not a bad third card to include along with the other boots if you're playing at those interrupts. Satoru the Infiltrator is the next one up here, and this is 1 blue, 1 black, legendary creature, human ninja rogue with menace. When it enters the battlefield and or one or more other non-token creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if none of them were cast or no mana was spent to cast them, draw a card. So this will play really well, of course, with the plot mechanic and other things like that, being able to bring things out without having to actually cast them. Obviously, it's a bit more niche, but it's pretty inexpensive to cast, and you can build around it in a way that will allow you to get some pretty good value out of this. And the draw power is never something you're going to complain about. So overall, just a solid card. It's pre-selling currently around $5, so nothing crazy. It does have an alternate art wanted poster version that's probably going to be a little bit more in demand if you're looking for higher rarity, but this card is pretty solid across the board and is definitely one players have their eyes on. Now, perhaps the best one, or maybe not best, but certainly the most intriguing, Obika, Splitter of Seconds. This is 1 blue, black, red, legendary creature, ogre, warlock with menace, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this phase. So, of course, the biggest demand for this card is the fact that its effect is absolutely wild. There are very few cards that allow you additional upkeep steps, and the ones that do are not as good as this one. There are so many things you can do with triggering additional upkeep steps, whether it's, you know, untapping mana, triggering effects that only activate during upkeep, and I mean, there's just a bazillion ways that this card can be built around and played out, and it's obvious that the community is really excited about it because it's sort of one that's had a ton of hype and talk the entirety of, you know, time since it's been released. And while there are some other cards that can allow you to maybe take a second upkeep, I know there's a card from the Doctor Who set that does it. None of them are going to do it on the level that this card can. It's pre-selling around $3 and then $5 for the foil, but again, it does have some alternate versions as well, so you'll have to kind of pick and choose which ones you like best. Either way, though, expect this card to see a lot of popularity in Commander, especially because it is a really, really unique card that can do all kinds of crazy things, and that's typically what Commander players look for. Spirebluff Canal is a really good card. The entire cycle of these fast lands is being reprinted here, thankfully, because they started to go up in price quite a lot. This card's only around like $3 or $4 right now, and actually I think it's the most expensive out of the 5. But these are all going to be lands you're probably going to want to pick up if you don't have them already. They were, I think Kaladesh was the last time they were reprinted, and they're just really solid options, definitely upgrades over tap lands that come into play tapped, always. And in general, people are going after these because it's just, it's now a budget option or close to a budget option for a cycle of lands that are really good that took a while to get reprinted, because I think it's been almost 10 years. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's, Kaladesh came out like 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. So it's been quite a while, and this entire cycle of lands has been selling well. With Spire Buff Canal, typically we see the Izzet lands be worth a little bit more, and it's just because it's such a popular color combination. But these lands are all going to be worth, and if they're at $3-4 right now, there's a chance they drop even a couple bucks more on release, and you have a chance to pick these up for, next to nothing, which I would definitely say is not a bad deal. I myself plan on picking up some as well. Alright, next up we've got Slickshot Show Off. This is probably the best selling card in the set right now. It's a 1-drop red creature bird wizard with flying and haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and it does have plot 1 and a red, meaning you can save it for a later turn. Certainly not a bad option if you want to wait until you have a bit more board presence to be able to make use of it. This card, for me, I mean, based on my understanding, has to be more so for, like, standard, maybe Pioneer, even modern formats. I see where Mono Red's going to have a field day with this in standard, but I have to imagine with the versatility that this has, having flying and haste, and essentially prowess. I mean, it's basically, it's prowess adjacent. I mean, it's just got so much going for it. It reminds me of Ledger Shredder in the sense that it's a low-cost card that's going to make a big impact in a lot of different decks. In Commander, probably not, actually. I mean, I'm sure there'll be places you can play it, but I think this card's really going to shine in, constructed 60-card formats. But it's got a lot of people going after it, and you could just kind of read it and see why, because it's a low-cost investment, and you can stack damage up real quick. And with flying and haste, this card is going to be a bit of a pain to deal with in certain matchups, without a doubt. Alright, and finally we've got Insatiable Avarice. This is a 1-drop black with Spree, which is one of the new keywords, and it basically allows you to choose 1 or more additional costs. Very similar, but the mana costs obviously vary on the card depending on what you choose. So if you choose to add 2 mana, so that's 2 and a black, you can search your library for a card, shuffle, and put it on top. And if you choose to add 2 additional black mana, target player draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. So you can mix and match that, so you can obviously pay 3 black, draw 3 cards, lose 3 life, but, if you're doing all of it together, you're paying 5 mana to basically get a guaranteed card from your library, draw an additional 2 cards. That's, pretty interesting, and the flexibility of the card is really good too. And obviously cards like Vampiric Tutor and Imperial Seal are a little bit better in most cases, but they're also really expensive. So having a budget or more budget-friendly option of a card like that is definitely not going to be a bad thing. But I honestly think this card's probably going to see inclusion alongside those cards in certain decks too, because you really can't go wrong with having the ability to get access to more things. So these are the best-selling cards in the main Outlaws or Thunder Junction set at this point. Obviously, there's a lot of cards that have been selling, and people go really hyped for this stuff early on. We're going to take another look later in the week after the set actually releases to see what values look like and where things are settling. But it'll be interesting to see if these cards see any type of early rise, or whether or not they're just, it's just FOMO right now of, people worrying cards are going to go up in price. Who knows what's going to happen? Let me know in the comments down below, though, if you guys plan on ordering any of these cards, if you think maybe some of them are overhyped, and if not, what you think might be worth including that perhaps I didn't mention here. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.